On to section 2, approval of the agenda. 2.1, changes to agenda and approval of agenda. And we do have some changes. Deleted item 8.18, request for fundraising and planning only for a self-help project, Ruckle Middle School, for the design and construction of a baseball locker room at the request of Dr. Bill Smith, Program Director, Facilities and Planning. And then added item 8.25, elementary and secondary school emergency relief, ESSER fund, under the American Rescue Plan Act. And this is going to be presented by Sheila Lightbourne, Assistant Superintendent, Curriculum and Instruction, and recommended by the Superintendent for approval. So we'll go down to recognitions, and 3.1 will be proclamation of National Education Support Professionals Day. Section 4 will be visitors. 4.1, we do have one visitor, Chad Ellinger, and I believe the superintendent has passed out some information for Monday night regarding this visitor. Section 5, administrative personnel appointments, we have none. 6, public comments. 6.1, members of the public desiring to address the school board. At this time, we will not know until Monday night. Section 7, committee and staff reports. 7.1 is in-county travel paid for the period of October 7th through the 20th, 2021. And 7.2, out-of-county travel paid for the period of October 7th through the 20th, 2021. We'll move down to the consent agenda. And again, board members, just stop me at any time for any item on here. 8.1 will be the approval of the consent agenda. 8.2, approval of the minutes of the student disciplinary hearing of October 21, 2021, minutes of workshop meeting of October 21 through October 21, 2021. It's a lot of 21s in there. Minutes of the regular meeting of October 25th, 2021, and these are all recommended by the superintendent for approval. 8.3, appropriation of District 3 School Board member capital outlay funds to Baker School for the carpentry program, and for $13,000 presented by Ms. Sabanchek. And then 8.4, appropriation of District 4 School Board member capital outlay funds to Baker School for the carpentry program in the amount of $11,845 presented by myself. And I would just like to, on these two items, on these particular items, it's actually for one thing, and I appreciate Ms. Sabanchek and myself helping this carpentry program out with this particular item. I think it's going to enhance that program.
That's a neat piece of equipment they're
Yes.
getting. Very good.
8.5, invoices to be approved for payment presented by Julie Perry. 8.6, school donations. 8.7, renewal of fuel purchasing agreement with Liza Jackson Preparatory School Incorporated. 8.8, renewal of fuel purchasing agreement with the Okaloosa Academy Incorporated. 8.9, request price increase for ITB 19-03, paper for offices and classrooms.
Pretty good increase right there.
Yes, it is. 8.10, tag on bid, ITB 3872AH, cafeteria, small wares and small equipment. 8.11, tag on bid purchase over $25,000, BSN Sports. 8.12, tag on bid purchase over $25,000, Stewart Tennis Courts and Fencing. 8.13, tag on bid purchase over $25,000, Mohawk Lifts LLC. 8.14, tag on bid purchase over $25,000, Office Depot. 8.15, exempted purchase over $25,000, Mosul. 8.16, service agreement number 22-88, Brent Purcell. 8.17, service agreement number 22-89, Zachary Lewis. 8.18 is a deleted item. 8.19 is sale and disposal of surplus property. 8.20, school performance plans, SPP, school improvement plans, SIP, for 2021 through 2022. 8.21, amendment to the 2020 through 2022 school health services plan.
And Mr. Bryant,
Yes, ma'am.
if possible, I've asked Ms. Schroeder if she would come and share. We were speaking yesterday, and she was sharing the portion of the dental. Oh, I'm sorry, did I jump ahead?
She can come on up anyway. So
Yeah, that's the.
That's,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I
Next
saw
one.
Schroeder and I jumped.
let me go on down to 8.22 so
Sorry.
people will know what you're going to be talking
Yes,
about
sir.
here. So 8.22, addendum to memorandum of understanding between Okaloosa County School Board and Children's Volunteer Health Network. And Ms. Schroeder?
Good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking me to share about this program, Ms. Gardner. I always love bragging about the collaboration that we have with our community resources, those agencies that provide care for our students outside and over and above the academic piece. And I think this is an awesome program that we are going to be working with Children's Volunteer Health Network on. We do have 2 other agencies that we work with on dental services that are done at no cost to the student and no cost to the district. But this particular program with the Children's Volunteer Health Network is the only one that's going to be providing restorative dental care. What that means is it's one thing to go in and do cleanings and provide fluoride treatments and things like that. That's prevention. But at this point, if they identify a problem, such as a cavity or, children with permanent teeth that have those cavities or issues, there's not really a whole lot of options for these children. And so this program is going to be adding that option. Obviously, parent consent is necessary and a must for that, but it is an opportunity for those kids when something's identified to provide that service. Get that tooth filled, protect that molar for that student. If you've ever had a toothache, it's real hard to learn how to read and write and do math when your mouth's hurting. And so this is an opportunity to provide those services. And so there's not a whole lot of providers in our area that provide Medicaid dental services to children, and so this is a big deal. So I'm
It
pretty
really
excited.
is.
If you've ever seen their bus, they have one bus that does the prevention piece. It's a pretty cool bus that drives around to our schools. The schools that are actually being serviced by Children's Volunteer Health Network are Riverside Elementary, Walker Elementary, Laurel Hill, and Baker School. And so they're getting a second bus that's going to be their restorative bus.
Wow.
And so that bus will go to those schools as well. They're funded through reimbursements from Medicaid and also community donations. And again, none of this costs our students anything, or the district, so I'm pretty excited. The other piece to the addendum is a partnership that Children's Volunteer Health Network is entering into with Northwest Florida State College. They have a dental assisting program at Northwest Florida State College, and they are going to be having their students from that program be a part of this restorative program. So all across agencies, there will be a collaboration. Again, parent consents, parent will be notified that there will be students, and obviously they have an option if they choose not to, that's fine. They just won't be able to participate in that particular service. But I think it'll be great all the way across, teaching those students over there from Northwest Florida how to provide these services to kids as well. Again, everything will be done under the direct supervision of a licensed dentist in the state of Florida.
Terrific. Great.
Yeah, what a strong community partnership that I was hearing. And I mean, I know how these students, when they're sitting in the classroom, you said they cannot learn. And taking the restorative part, it's just taking it to that next level.
Yeah.
And again, I love the partnership, and then our students are the ones benefiting. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
nice job. On top of COVID and everything else, she's doing some wonderful things.
Thank you, Ms. Grant.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now we'll move down to 8.23, Memorandum of Understanding between the Community Development Institute Head Start and the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida. 8.24, 2021 through 2022 SAC membership for Okaloosa County Schools. And the added item here, 8.25, Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief ESSER Fund under the American Rescue Plan, ARP Act. And this is presented by Sheila Lightborn.
Okay, can we get an
Yep.
explanation on that?
So the last time we had a school board meeting, we still did not receive the application or any word as to when we were going to start this process. We now have that.
Good.
So we have a due date of November 12th. So we have Ms. Lightborn and her crew, Mrs. Perry and her crew, as well as senior staff preparing that at this time. I shared with you at the last meeting the types of categories that we're looking at to put in this plan. So all of those will be put into this plan, and then we will eagerly await approval. If we need to make any adjustments or revisions, we will. But of course, we're hopeful that it'll be approved as is. But November 12th, quick turnaround, but we have been preparing for this for a while.
Great, thank you.
So any other?
That is
All right.
it.
So now we'll move down to Section 9, and this is Superintendent's Human Resource Recommendations. And the first two items on Monday night will be information only, employees on administrative leave, and deferred retirement option to drop. So 9.3, we have employment separations. 9.4, personnel recommendations. 9.5, employee transfers. 9.6, employee suspension. 9.7, employee suspension. 9.8, employee suspension. 9.9, leave without pay. And 9.10, employee suspension. Item 10 will be discussion agenda. At this time, there has not been any items moved from the consent agenda. And 11, construction programs owners representatives business. 11.1, program status report. And Dr. Kelly?
And we have our meeting Monday morning, and so I'll be able to deliver a report to you Monday night.
All right. Item 12 is information technology seat management contract, and we have no business right now. And 13 is attorney's business. Dr. White. Mr. McInnes.
Just one item, Mr. Chairman, this morning. As we move forward on our certificate of participation financing program, the board has used for a number of years the law firm of Bryant Miller Olive, Attorney George Smith as our bond counsel and disclosure counsel. That agreement with that firm was approved by the board back in November of 2016. We just would ask Monday night under my business that you ratify that agreement with that firm and authorize the chairman to sign it so that we can continue moving forward with this financing proposal. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. And we do have that copy of that agreement.
Yes, sir.
Before us.
So can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
So by approving that, that allows us to encumber that money so we can move faster in our projects?
This does not encumber any funds.
Okay.
This just confirms that he will serve as bond counsel and disclosure counsel in this financing for your construction program.
Okay, great, all right, thank
Strictly
you.
related to he and his law firm.
Thank you, Mr. McInnes. Section 14, superintendent's business. 14.1, out-of-state student trip request. And Mr. Chambers, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant and School Board. I do have a few updates that I would like to provide. I'd like to start with a few curriculum updates. And Ms. Lightbourne, I'm going to ask you to talk about the CPR piece, but I'm going to start with Hope Squad first. So we've talked about Hope Squad at our meetings for a while. Dr. Kelly is instrumental also in our Hope Squad and getting that out to each of our schools. Our goal for Hope Squad, which we know is a suicide awareness and prevention program that goes towards not only employees being aware, but our students being aware and being part of the process and being leaders, and it even goes to parents as well. And our goal by the end of this school year is to have every secondary school involved in Hope Squad, and by the end of the following year to have our elementary schools on board. The piece that I would like to say under the leadership of Ms. Peggy Broxson and others, Dr. Kelly, we have an amazing community that's been supporting this program. And there's community people right now who are working to raise even additional funds for Hope Squad to support our school district and, more importantly, support these students. And it's something that makes me really proud. We are in the running for an Impact 100 grant with this, and there's even another proposal that's out there. So just very appreciative of the schools taking part in this because it's important, and just as appreciative of the community supporting this type of a project. And Ms. Lightbourne, if you'd come up and discuss CPR.
And while she's walking up here, the Hope Squad was one of the 12 organizations the Women's Club highlighted too
In your
for their
calendar.
work. So
That's right, yes,
they're
ma'am.
getting a lot of recognition for their program, which is great.
And if I
And
could just
every s-
say, I'm sorry, Sheila.
No, go ahead.
Everything starts at the top. No program can be successful without the support of the superintendent, and we truly do appreciate your always being supportive of that program and speaking highly of those who are involved. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So you all know that legislation was passed this past year on teaching CPR to all 9th and 11th graders. Of course, unfortunately, there was no funding attached to that. So you do need the dummies. There's a hands-on component that must happen. So Tammy Ellis was able to work through DODEA and add that to our grant, and so we were able to get a appropriate number of kits per school. Each school, depending on their size, got a different number of kits. And so in the kit is an instructional video, so that does the instruction. It has you stop and then do compressions or whatever piece of the hands-on part that comes with it. It's required for an hour of instruction, so we will be doing it for 9th graders in biology. The high schools, we've talked, and they've all decided to do 11th grade differently because there's really just not a consistent science class to do it in. So they're coming up with their own methods of how to accomplish this with 11th graders. But I do want everybody to understand that when the instruction is completed, they will have an overview of CPR, but they will not be certified in CPR. Okay?
Is it the teachers? I'm sorry if I missed that. The teachers will be?
There's an instructional video
The
that
video
comes
one,
with it.
okay.
The teachers
It's
will
the
be
video
facilitating,
one, okay.
and the biology teachers are pretty good.
Right,
They're going to fit it in when they're doing the human
So,
body, so
through
it
the
kind of
video,
works real
okay.
well with their curriculum. It's just hard with the 11th grade, so that's why the schools will figure out their way of doing it
Okay.
with
And-
11th grade.
Ms. Lightburn, I
Yes.
know you said this, but I would like to reiterate this. This is valuable knowledge, and we understand that, but it is the result of state legislation. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
And I do have a follow-up on that too, so
Yes.
just to, it's required for 9th and 11th graders? Or-
Yes.
Okay, and they have to have that before they graduate?
So yes, it's required for 9th and 11th graders. It has not been made a graduation requirement,
Okay.
but it is required for 9th and 11th graders.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear on that, 'cause I've had some people ask me if that was going to be a graduation requirement.
They've not attached it to that yet,
Right.
but it is required for all 9th and 11th
This is required for
graders to have
teachers
it.
to teach it.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, so that they have
Yes,
that, yeah.
Yes,
How
so
would
they have the
homes-
exposure.
I'm sorry. How would homeschool or online, would that, just made me think about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, homeschool does homeschool, so they would have to.
But through Okaloosa Online, would that be?
If they're part of Okaloosa Online, but
Okay.
homeschool students do
Right,
their
I-
own
now that I've said
curriculum.
that, Correct,
Mhm.
correct.
Thank you.
All right. So that's just a little bit of information on curriculum. Going back to ESSER 3, we will get you the final copy. We're hoping that we get approval sooner rather than later. So we will also bring this back before the board, just so we're all on the same page with those funds. COVID, just want to continue to give you an update on COVID. We are still keeping our dashboard up to date so families can see where we are in our county. Our numbers are still remaining low. You can see that on the dashboard. This week to date, we are less than 10 to date, but we'll update today and then, of course, update tomorrow. So we've consistently, the last number of weeks, been about 20 or less, but that exact number is right there on the district COVID dashboard. We also had the pleasure of partnering with Mr. Mel Ponder, one of our county commissioners, and we have a youth leadership council. And what we're doing is looking at how seniors and juniors can work with the county and work with the school district on different types of initiatives. So these students are working together at these assigned meetings, and they come up with different ideas. And they're coming up with ideas on how the county can do certain projects, but then also how the school district can do certain projects. 2 projects that these students have come up with that will eventually come to the school board for school business, and they'll go to the county commissioners for county commissioner business. But 2 for the school board so far, it looks like Hope Squad is something that they want to see at all schools. So I thought that was neat that students are pushing for this program. And then second is to make sure that we have financial literacy for high schools. We do have financial literacy in 2 of our high schools as an elective, but as we go through this process, and as many of you know, in the November timeframe, high schools start working on their course requests and their course books for the next year. So Ms. Lightbourne, Mr. Horton will be talking with high school principals about that financial literacy type class, and I think those are just great skills that students can utilize as they go forward, especially upon graduation. And there was a number of other items about schools getting together and doing some fundraising projects for a big cause that they also came up with as a district-wide focus. But those were 2 that were at the top that I thought were interesting to come from students and very mature to come from students. Last night, we had the NDAIA grant ceremony, where teachers from across Okaloosa, Santa Rosa, and Walton all received approximately $1,000 for STEM. So there was over 60,000 that was given out last night to teachers. Over 600,000 has been given out during its inception. So this is a direct result of this community, the community businesses and leaders giving to this project. So these aren't state funds, these aren't school district funds, it's business communities and partners working together to give money for this, and it goes straight to the teachers to be able to do STEM education in their classrooms. And this ranged from kindergarten teachers who received it all the way to high school teachers that received it. So it was pretty neat to see the community. There was a number of military folks there, Boeing folks there, and I don't want to list all because I'll forget some, but just there was a number of leaders there last night for these teachers, and it was fantastic. Also, as we know, Veterans Day is approaching, and I just want to say, and I'm sure some of you will say some things as well, so I'll just be very brief on it, that our schools do a great job honoring, those who have served, those who served and lost their lives, but really, especially in this community, in Okaloosa County, and our military community, it's just vital that we pay the respect that we should and that we will November 11th. So I just wanted to share that. And then I wanted Mr. Horton just to come up, and I wanted to do this kind of at each board meeting to give a focus update. As you know, we're moving away from AS400. We had Mr. Mitchell come last time, but just to kind of share with you where we are along the process.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers, board members. So as you know, we're transitioning to focus for the upcoming school year, and so that's a very involved process, obviously with the goal of making it as smooth and seamless as possible. We know there'll be some bumps in the road, but we'll try to provide information to board members and obviously to the stakeholders throughout the process. So what's happening right now is Eric Mitchell is our liaison with Focus. He's holding meetings right now with Focus personnel and our own school district personnel. So as an example, we had a meeting earlier this week that involved ESE and that issue, the documentation there and all of the resources that are needed and available. We had a meeting with ELL. We had a meeting with the schedulers in Okaloosa County. So we're going through the process right now of making sure Focus understands the roadmap that we want as a district to get us to a new platform. And so they are, in a sense, customizing the things that we need, and we're doing it on the front end so that we have fewer need on the back end to make changes. So those meetings last a couple of hours. We go through click by click of what's happening and how it looks different. Right now, many of you have been in education. Our AS400 is our computer, but Terms, that green screen, is what most of us grew up on. Our programming staff over the last many years has written programs for a grade book, has written programs for ways for our employees to pull information from that database that looks friendly, more friendly for employees. And so we've done that, but we've reached a point where we know it's time to move to a platform that provides us that next level. So that's forthcoming. One of the things that we want to do and model after is the old gradebook manager piece, because we know teachers and the use of their gradebook is going to be so critical once we get to next fall. So we're not about having teachers come to pre-planning and take a 2-hour training to make sure they understand what's going on with their new grade book. That wouldn't work. So this spring, we'll be working, identifying folks in schools to serve as grade book managers of sorts through a transition, so that we can begin this spring to let everybody know, see, put hands on what we can to make sure that we're as available as we will. We'll also provide a myriad of professional development opportunities this summer that would include paying folks for coming to workshops. We know that there are bookkeepers in the school buildings that have a completely different way of doing business. They use the green screen still, and so finance has been working and very carefully laying out what that will look like. So it's monumental. We'll be doing the student platform, the human resource platform, and the finance platform all at one time. Now, we will be running a parallel system. And so, for example, I think that's important because you want to make sure things are up and running appropriately and then tested before you kind of turn off one and go to the other one fully. So that's going to be happening. The other thing that's important to know is for parents, this will dramatically increase the ability of the teacher and the school to directly communicate with parents. We do a great job right now. I think over the last few years, the communication of the school district has ramped up to a level where I think we're all very proud of how we communicate. But right now, this particular platform will give the teacher tools in his or her hands to be communicating with parents directly. It also gives us the ability from, and I'll say one more thing, because I've done this in my history, the master scheduling at the high school level and the middle school level, where you're building courses and you are changing things and you're kind of looking at fields in the AS400, but the platform that we're going to will allow those who do the master scheduling to drag and drop and see real-time everything that's going on with the master schedule, which will be, I think, a huge improvement in efficiency. And that's what we're looking for in this process, is to improve our efficiencies from what I think is pretty good and where we come from, but I think we can go further with that.
Well, and you answered, sort of answered one of my questions, and that was about scheduling. And maybe other than funding, scheduling's right up there at the top and how important it is in a school. And so I think I heard you say that we'll be using the new system for scheduling, I'm assuming, for next year.
And here's what we'll do. Good
Yep.
question, Dr. White. This spring, in February, March is when the middle and high schools begin their scheduling for the following year. So what will happen is we will let those students schedule as they have historically, and we have developed an online registration piece, course selection. So we'll do that, but then we will export all of those course selections into the Focus database, so that when the master scheduler begins to work, find out which periods go where best and how it all fits, they'll actually be able to work in the Focus platform to do that.
Wow, okay. Big change.
There's a lot going on. There is, yes, sir.
I know it's exciting that this is probably the last piece of technology that we still have from the 20th century. And,
Legacy.
and
That's right.
I'm really excited about it just because it's going to, you talk about efficiency and communication pieces and all, it's really going to, make it easier for our employees and everybody that's going to have a, handle on that. So,
And then I'll just follow up on that, the employees. So it'll be a new tool for our employees, but the benefit for the employees, they'll have their own dashboard. If you remember being an employee of the school district, determining how many hours of sick leave you have left, determining your salary history and all those sorts of things, that was really something you had to reach out to finance or HR to determine. Now in a dashboard, we'll be able to provide so much information for
Yep.
employees at their fingertips so they can keep track of things.
oh, yeah. Yep.
That's good.
Exciting.
All right?
Thank you, Mr. Horton.
Yes, sir.
And that is all that I have. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chambers. So now we will move to board members' announcements and requests for information. And today I will start with the Honorable Ms. Gardner.
Thank you. And this, they may not even, I don't know really where to direct my question, may not be anybody in this room, but I've had several teachers ask, why do they have to sit out 1 year after they retire? And it seems like at one time, they only had to sit out 1 month, and then they were able to come back. And I don't know, especially needing substitute and guidance counselors in those hard-to-find areas. And I didn't have an answer, and like I said, Dr. Hell's coming to the board, but Why is that a requirement now?
Yes, ma'am. That is a decision that is outside the realm of the jurisdiction of
The
the
board.
county.
Okay.
It involves FRS and statute.
Okay, so it is all through the state
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
required.
So the good news is that's actually something that's being discussed this year about,
good.
I
about
thought-
relaxing some of those, just because of the shortage of teachers out there.
Even as a substitute, they can't
Substitutes
come
and
back,
all.
can they?
No,
Yeah.
no, they
So-
cannot.
Volunteers.
Or
So the rule
volunteer.
is that
Can't
anything
even be on
that looks or
campus.
smells like an FRS protected job would
Right.
qualify as an FRS protected
There you
job.
go.
Well,
understand.
and
There you
that's a good point, because they can't not just come back to us.
Right.
Any
They can't
state.
come back to any retirement system that has FRS.
Or they will risk
Any agency.
losing their,
That's
every
Benefits,
bit
yeah.
of their
Whether
retirement. And
it's
I'm glad Mr.
Law
Bryant.
enforcement or anything,
They're
they're excluded
working
from
on
all
that,
of
right?
it.
I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear that.
The
We can
FSB.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's being
share that.
discussed, but again, who knows what's going to come to the finish line in Tallahassee.
Well,
so.
Mr. Bryant, I'm sure you
You
can.
need to tell them we need
Yeah.
And
employees.
that's, but I've had several individuals ask that question, so
Right.
thank you, and that's all.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gardner, and the Honorable Ms. Savancheck.
Okay, all right. I don't know if I should have brought this up when we were doing our organization, but I would like to ask something as a clarification on the way we are on agenda. I mentioned this to the superintendent, and I just want to get some board feedback. Okay, on 4.0, we have a section called visitors, okay? And, of course, we all love to have our community members here. That's important. And so we have the visitors. Then, of course, later we have the
2 minutes.
the 4-minute version of people coming from the public, and then we have a 2-minute version. So I guess I was under the impression that the visitor slot would be more used along the lines if someone was coming to offer us information on something, to maybe promote a program, or maybe even some kind of recognition or something like that. I was not thinking that the visitor position thing here was anything where a member of the public could come up and offer essentially a concern or a grievance about a topic. So I'd like to talk about that.
That section of your agenda is addressed, I think, even in board policy, and it is open for that kind of presentation if someone chooses to make it. They just have to submit it, I think, 7 days in advance of the agenda meeting in which they are asking to be on the agenda. I think it does offer sometimes confusion, because is there a real difference between that section of the agenda and the public comment sections? You have 2 public comment sections on your agenda. So, but yes, ma'am, those kind of comments can come up in that part of your agenda.
And I've
So-
seen, I'm sorry, go ahead, let me finish.
I was just in the moment thinking, do we need to define visitor, or do we need to, for efficiency's sake, define that spot on our agenda better? And I know as we review policy now, fortunately on our rotating basis, that we review those policies in the handbook, could we look at that? Because now that you mention it, I agree that not only is there confusion, but we limit it to 4 minutes for a reason and 2 minutes for a reason. And that section is not necessarily limited.
Except that I think we
in
would
the-
still apply the limits just
in-
procedurally.
In the past, my experience of 40-something years here, that section has been used for people awarding checks, people acknowledging recognitions of awards to various entities, various student groups, teachers, grants. So that has been historically how that visitor section, to my knowledge, just here in the moment, hearing this, has been used. So maybe we should keep it that way and remind ourselves and anyone who contacts us to want to be placed on the agenda that that section is for a different purpose. And maybe they would want to go down to public comment for their purposes.
But would
Maybe
that-
we define
Sorry.
that differently, I'm sorry.
No, I am sorry, I thought, but would that be limiting the time for the parents to the 2 minutes? And we've seen parents use the 4 minutes and then come back for the 2 minutes.
Right, that, my purpose would not be to limit anyone,
No.
anywhere, anytime. It's just to distinguish between what,
Right.
why we have 3 points now on our agenda to make 4.
Well,
I-
and typically,
I think, and I would say, I think historically, many years ago, we only had the visitor section of the agenda.
Right.
As legislation continues to change, the board has added the public comment sections to your agenda, both because you wanted to hear from the public, and
Right.
secondly, because legislation has added requirements for those. I think as we've been adding the other public comment sections, we've just not gone back to revisit the purpose of the visitor section, because at one point that, I believe that was the public comment
the
area
only
of the
place,
whole
okay.
agenda.
And you have to request to be in that part, where the other, you can come in and fill out a card just spur of the
Absolutely.
moment.
Sporadic.
Yes, ma'am.
right, in the visitor section, it also, like with the one that we have Monday night, it gives us a heads up of what this gentleman's going to talk about. Thus, the superintendent's already given us information. And what people don't understand and is that board meetings are business meetings. So when they are under public comment, it is not part of the business for us to engage in that public comment. Now, we're free to do that, but it's typically not that way. But visitor sections, because we do have a heads up, that can open up for questions.
And I think that's a great point, Mr. Bryant, because there is a process to be a visitor, and there's paperwork and that kind of thing. And I know that in the past, sometimes items were able to be resolved before they came to the board, because the paperwork kind of gave a heads up, and the superintendent and his staff were able to say, well, this is what we've done, or this is how it's been resolved. And so that process has a value there. And then fundamentally, there is one other difference, and that is that when a person goes through the process and ultimately is approved to be a visitor, they are actually listed on the agenda. And as board members know, that's not the case when they just show up to make a comment.
Right.
So in that respect, it may have some value there too.
Right.
No.
And by filling out that blue card, even though under public comment, they do become part of the.
They're part of the record.
But it's, like Dr. White said, they're not actually on the agenda at that time.
Now, my comments were not meant to eliminate this portion, but just to have a distinction there.
Right.
Right.
And maybe to
Right.
define better for us and for our public what the distinctions were between those two areas.
And I think the board has all agreed, we're not in any way trying to limit,
No.
reduce
Exactly.
days, out
Exactly.
minutes, or anything
We
along
have
those
In
lines.
my
increased.
opinion, I would be in favor of them appearing for any reason, just as if they were to be, come to our meeting and fill out the blue card.
And that was exactly the purpose of my comments, to get this out in the open so we could define what was meant, what is intended.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that discussion. All right, a couple more items, if you don't mind. Okay. First of all, the Baker ladies volleyball team is in regional play. And, you know, I mentioned last time, they've won 19 consecutive district titles. And so they'll be playing at home, which is great, because typically, seems like District 1, we have to travel. But they're going to be hosting this Saturday at 2 o'clock on the campus for that regional play. So go Lady Gators, and I hope by Monday night I'm telling you that they have a regional title. The next thing I wanted to note is that yesterday was 1 year that our citizens voted to give us the half-cent sales tax. I can't believe it's gone that quickly, but that was a really a star day for Okaloosa County Schools, and we've come so far with everything we've done. I attended our sales tax committee meeting last week, and, you know, we go as observers and listen to that, and it's amazing how much we're moving and going. And I want to remind the public that if they want to keep up with what we're doing, besides our meeting information, that we do have that dashboard that is extensive in showing what schools we're working at, what we're doing with what. And I think that our public should be pleased with how we've been monitoring that and moving forward. And it's exciting. And one other thing, I just received some information, is that the sales tax revenues in our state have been exceeding our expectations. And one source I got was that in just the month of September, the sales tax revenue was up 15.7%. just for the month of September. So we've been monitoring it more quarterly. We've had the 2 quarters, but it's exciting to see that things are even better than we thought, because it'll help us move on. So great anniversary to mark that it's been a year that we've worked in partnership with our community to improve our schools. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vanchek. And the Honorable Dr. Kelly.
Thank you. So I just have to say, I think Baker's golf team, didn't they just win something significant at the state level too?
They did. They're not moving forward, but they did place in the thing, but not high enough to move forward.
They were
But
phenomenal too.
but that's a new venture for them.
Yeah, that's
in
right.
golf. So I'm proud of them too. Thank you.
And so Ruckle, congratulations on their volleyball team, who is the county champs this year. So Ruckle Volleyball, shout out. And Niceville has an almost unheard of 8 musicians at a high school. That's almost unheard of, to have 8 musicians to make all-state band and all-state orchestra. And then I think Ms. Ivanchuk was looking at my notes, I think, earlier before.
Uh-oh. I
because
didn't mean to.
I also had on there, no, I'm teasing, that it is our 1-year anniversary, I think yesterday, of our citizens voting in the sales tax initiative. And when you look around our county and you visit our schools, you can't help but just be bursting with pride for the things that we've been able to do for our students and our communities with that sales tax. So it's appropriate to thank our communities again for supporting us in that sales tax initiative. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. And the Honorable Dr. White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick things. I think, Superintendent, we're still doing parent surveys, or at least that's what my review of school websites indicated. So I want to encourage our families to respond to those, and also very much appreciated your comments about Veterans Day and how important that is to our community. For folks that don't know, our schools do an amazing job with Veterans Day. Just a couple of things for the high school that I represent. Choctawhatchee High School's Educational Support Person of the Year is Mr. Don Brown. And also that the Choctawhatchee Cross Country girls team are district champions, and having, believe it or not, one time, a long time ago, been the cross country coach. I know how hard those kids work to make those distance runs, and so it's very, very good news to hear about that. And then lastly, I want to put in a plug for Christmas poinsettias. And the Choctawhatchee Art Department is selling Christmas poinsettias, and you can get the information from the Choctawhatchee website and also on their Facebook page. And the money will go to the art department, and they really are. They're beautiful. I see Dr. Hale smiling because he knows they're big and they're worth it.
As a person who has for many years purchased those for the price and the size,
That's it.
I mean, it is well worth.
It is. It
Definitely,
really is.
and it goes back to a great cause, so.
That's right.
Get
Back
your
to the
poinsettias.
arts. Okay, that's all I have, Mr.
All right,
Chair.
thank you, Dr. White. And my announcements are, Mr. Chambers, I do have a request. I would ask that, beginning in January, if we could please have a risk management report sent to all board members on a quarterly basis. And the reason why I ask this is because, being a member of FSBIT, they give us a lot of information, and I do go to one big meeting where we do get a ton of information, and I would think it would be good that the board members see the good things that are going on with risk management, the training, the things that we're doing to reduce the number of accidents, things like that. If it would be possible to have Russ just do a little report, kind of like you would do with the WAVE or something like that, just to share with us the things that are happening there. I think it's important to know that FSBIT not only provides us with insurance and things like that, but they also help with our training. And so it would just be great for my fellow board members to see that. And if we could start in January on a quarterly basis, doesn't have to be something big, just something like a snapshot. So,
Absolutely. We'll have Dr. Hale and Mr. Frakes get together, and we will start that in January.
and I would also like to recognize that Crestview High School is finally in the swimming program. So we have a swimming team finally, and really excited to see what's going to happen with that. You know, for years I always heard people, why don't we have a swimming team? And mostly it was because we didn't really have the facilities or the want to participate, but now they actually have a full team going, and they're using, I believe it's the Central Baptist swimming pool area that they're doing the training and all that, and so it's really cool to see that Crestview has a swimming team now. And I would like to just end my comments by thanking my fellow school board members for everything that they do, not only here at the board meetings, but what they do outside of the school, out in the schools, outside of the school district, representing our schools. I just will tell you that just having that unity that we have on the board just shows that our focus is Okaloosa schools and doing what's best for our county. Mr. Chambers, I thank you for your leadership and your senior staff and everybody that's involved, our principals, everybody, for everything that you've done this last year, 2 years actually, with everything that's been going on. Our support and educational people out there, we appreciate y'all, and our senior staff, we thank you for all that you do. But I will just tell you that witnessing some of the boards across the state, not trying to knock that or anything like that, but it's refreshing to know that we can come in and do our business, and when we do it in a professional manner, the people that come and speak always are professional and respectful. So with that, I just say thank you to everybody that's involved, but mostly my fellow board members, and thank you. So now we'll move down to the 2-minute version of public comment. And like Dr. White said, we a couple of years ago, I know he brought this up, and we are able to give 2-minute public comment. So we offer a lot of public comment, and we appreciate the public comment. So that will be the 2-minute version. And then we do have one public hearing for the adoption of revised school board policy 02-17, purchasing procedures. And with that, we'll go around.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I believe there also will be a public hearing on policy 01-19, which implements the new Parents' Bill of Rights. I believe that was advertised for Monday night. We'll
Okay.
double check that right after this meeting, but I
Okay.
believe that
So
will
that needs to be added
that
to
will
the
be added.
agenda?
Yes.
And with that, of course, I'm sure you will go around and update us all on.
Certainly.
On that.
I think those ads are already out there publicly, and it's been scheduled.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go around the room. Ms. Appleberg, congratulations. I hear a little boy is in the future, so congratulations. Mr. Strong, happy belated birthday. Mr. Butler, it's great to see you, sir. Anything you'd like to say?
Good to
Dr.
see you.
Hale, Ms. Lightbourne, Mr. Horton, Ms. Perry? All right, this meeting's adjourned.
Okay, we'll